Good morning. You can hear the cicadas in the background. Ton of wind. You'll see graffiti real soon. I'm back in Athens. It's good to be back, but I already missed Belgrade. Let's get to some news and, of course, the noise. Lots of noise. Oh boy. Yeah, as I start my video, someone's drilling something here. Whenever I do a video, there's always some noise that pops up in Athens. Let's take a walk then. Let's talk about some news, everybody. We have got to talk about, let's see, Zaporozhye nuclear plant. Dangerous situation there. We've got to talk about CBS News and CNN. A lot of trickle truth that we are seeing from CNN and CBS News. And there's a reason for this trickle truth. What else should we talk about? Blinken is in South Africa. The Secretary of State has now arrived in South Africa. And what else should we get to? Do I have anything else lined up here? Man, those cicadas are loud. Really, really loud. I think that's it. I'll do a really good clown world where I cover kind of a lot of clown world stories. All right, let's check out this bench. Make sure it's clean from any pigeon poop. And, maybe there's one over there in the shade. Let me get to the one in the shade. Those cicadas, they are going off. All right, give me 1 second. So Zaporozhye, I talked about this yesterday while I was in Belgrade, that Ukraine, they're saying that the Russians are, all right, we're all good. They said the Russians are attacking, no, what did they say? They're mining. They're mining the Zaporozhye nuclear plant. No explanation was given why the Russians would want to booby trap a nuclear power plant, but okay, so be it. And they also made the claim that the Russians were firing artillery from the Zaporozhye nuclear plant in order to, I guess, get the Ukraine side to fire on the nuclear plant in order to cause some sort of catastrophe because the Russians are winning too much and they want to create a catastrophe, I guess. The logic kind of evades me. But we are getting reports now from the Russian military that Ukraine is indeed shelling the nuclear power plant. And they've actually gotten close to causing serious damage and a possible possible nuclear catastrophe, for which the Russian side has said this could be Chernobyl levels. We've had statements coming from the United Nations. They're not placing blame on either side. They're just saying that this could lead to an absolute catastrophe should something happen. Once again, the Ukraine side is saying that the Russians are booby trapping, they're mining, putting explosives around the nuclear power plant, and they're purposefully firing from that power plant in order to draw attack from Ukraine. While the Russians have now come out with a statement saying that it's actually Ukraine that is firing on this nuclear plant in Zaporozhye. And the UN is saying, this is from Gutierrez, the Secretary General, quote, any attack... Oh, here comes the wind. 1 sec. Lots of wind. You know what, guys? Give me 1 second. I'm going to put the mic with the wind card. 1 second. I'll be back. All right. Where was I? You see, when everyone knows by now that the tripod, my selfie stick is my left arm. That's what I use to to carry the camera and to stabilize. And when I add a mic with the dead cat, with the windscreen, it adds just like a little bit more weight, like just a few ounces of weight, but it makes such a huge difference. I actually like feel it on my arm, the difference that it makes when I put it on there, but it does manage to block the wind noise, so that's good. Anyway, let's get to Gutierrez's statement here with regards to Zaporozhye and the nuclear plant. He said, quote, "Any attack to a nuclear plant is a suicidal thing. I hope that those attacks will end. And at the same time, I hope that the IAEA will be able to access the plant." This is what he said at a press conference in Tokyo on Monday morning, without blaming either side. And that's the key. No side has been blamed for this possible nuclear catastrophe in Zaporozhye. There are reports from Moscow, from Russia. They are accusing Ukrainian troops of firing artillery shells at the plant. And there was an actual fire that had to be put out. They're also saying that several drone attacks over the past month have targeted the plant. A senior non-proliferation and arms control official at the Russian Foreign Ministry warned that the attacks on the plant risk triggering an event similar to the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The Russian Defense Ministry said parts of the equipment at the plant were out of power due to the shelling, and a fire broke out at the facility and was quickly put out. The ministry claimed that by sheer luck, that's a quote, by sheer luck, the Ukrainian shells did not cause a bigger fire and a possible nuclear disaster. Cui bono? Comment section, let me know. Cui bono? Who benefits from a catastrophe, a nuclear catastrophe in Zaporozhye as the conflict grinds on? Who benefits from a nuclear meltdown? I think we all know the answer to that question. So, shifting gears from Zaporozhye, not shifting gears so much. Let's talk about CNN and CBS, two stories that they ran. Now, there's a CNN video. I'm going to put a link to that down below. I can't play it for obvious copyright reasons. But in that video, they have a CNN reporter kind of sitting on a road where the crossing from Ukraine-controlled territory in the Zaporozhye region to Russian-controlled territory in Zaporozhye, Kherson. And it's like a dirt road that the CNN reporter says people use to cross back and forth between Ukraine and Russian-controlled territory. And the purpose of this CNN report is kind of twofold. The first one is to say that the bridges were knocked out, though those bridges are going to come back online. We reported about the bridges that Ukraine was targeting and they were trying to destroy, and how those bridges, were being shelled and they were knocked out. But now I understand the Russians have fixed everything and those bridges will come back online. If not today, very, very, very soon. But they use this like dirt road crossing now, and it's really muddy, like a really muddy dirt road to get to the Russian-controlled territory, and vice versa. So the CNN reporter makes that note, the Ukraine took out some bridges, so people have to cross using this muddy road. But more importantly, the CNN reporter, he makes the statement that people are using this crossing, or they used to use this crossing, to go from Ukraine to Russia and from Russia to Ukraine territories. But then he makes the statement, recently, we've seen almost all the traffic going one way, i.e. going from Ukraine-controlled territory to Russian-controlled territory. And they're showing all the cars with all kinds of luggage and belongings, like, the cars are carrying all kinds of things, tied up to the roof. And he interviews some people, and a lot of them are like, young people. who are saying, we need to get to Kherson, the Russian-controlled Kherson, because our parents are there and we're carrying supplies to them and we want to see them. And then the CNN reporter is like, well, you're going to be back, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll be back. No, they won't. No, they won't. I think the point of this report is that it's showing that people are leaving the Ukraine side and they're going to the Russian side. And all of the things that, all of the belongings that these cars are carrying and everything that's strapped on to the roof of the car, to me indicates that all of these people that are using this dirt road to enter Kherson, they're not going back. They're not going to return back. No chance about it. It ain't happening. And so that's kind of an indication from CNN that people are bailing the Ukraine-held territory. Now, keep in mind, a viewer sent us, about a week ago, sent us an email where he talked about something that many people are not talking about, and that is the exchange rate price of the hryvnia to the dollar. Now, I believe it's at around 44, 45 hryvnias to the dollar, and it's fallen quite a lot, and it's continuing to fall. And you have the ruble at I think it's, 58 rubles to the dollar? And the viewer said, keep an eye on this exchange rate. When the hryvnia hits the same rate as the dollar, this war is over. People are just going to go straight to the ruble. When the hryvnia gets to 55, 60 hryvnia to the dollar, where the ruble is right now, I mean, we're going to see some drastic changes. And we're going to see a lot of Ukrainians say, we're going to pile into rubles now. All of us are just going to pile into rubles. And we're going to see a big time collapse in Ukraine taking place. So keep an eye on that exchange rate, and keep an eye for the parity between the exchange of the hryvnia to the dollar and the ruble to the dollar. That's going to be a big deal. But either way, a lot of people are going to start moving towards the Kherson area in Ukraine. They're going to want to get the passport. They're going to want to get onto the ruble system, and you're seeing that in this CNN report. Now, the second story that we have to talk about: trickle truth. Trickle truth. These are all signs that that collapse is coming. Is the story that we want to talk about now is this CNN report saying that 30% of Western military hardware is actually ending up on the front line, and the other 70% of all the military hardware, for which Biden has just approved another $1 billion in military hardware, 70% of that is going lost. So out of that $1 billion that was just recently approved, I think today Biden is signing off on that $1 billion, 700 million of that goes missing. And I would say that these numbers that CBS News is giving, this is generous. 30% is making it to the front lines. How about we have that and say 15%? Or how about we say most likely 10% of that hardware is making it to the front lines? Now, a lot of it is getting destroyed. Just the other day, Russia said that they took out a huge ammo depot, which was where a lot of the HIMAR Wonder Weapon missiles and all of that stuff was being stored. The Russians took that out, something like, I forgot the number, just a huge amount of ammo, and they took that out. So a lot of the weapons, a lot of the ammo and all the military hardware that's being delivered to Ukraine is being taken out by the Russians. That's an admission that Russia is successful. Okay? CBS is saying 70% of this stuff is getting taken out, and I'm being generous with the numbers. I think CNN is being generous. CBS is being generous with the number. CBS is admitting that the Russians are having a lot of success in taking out a lot of the military hardware that is given to Ukraine. But a large part of this hardware is also hitting the black markets. I've been talking about this, I think since the beginning of the conflict. Anyone that has been to Ukraine, I've been to Ukraine. I've seen what it's like. Anyone that has been there understands the level of corruption is off the charts. Now look, Greece, Cyprus, I can speak for Greece and Cyprus, super duper corrupt. I mean, a lot of corruption is happening here. And I would say there's probably more corruption, especially on a higher level, since we've joined the EU. Like the corruption before the EU used to be at very low levels. Like, let me give an example. Before we entered the EU, it was like, okay, I'm going to open up a company and I need to get a certain certificate or a certain stamp in order to move along the opening of this company, like a basic company, right? So I have to go to this ministry, this government office and get a certain stamp or certificate. So you go there and the person behind the desk would be like, yeah, you know, getting this certificate is, well, it's going to probably take 6 months. And then you're like, okay, well, you know, here's 50, let's say back then it was drachma, but you would say the equivalent is here's $50 or 50 euros or something like that. Oh, okay, we'll have the certificate in a week. That was like the level of corruption before the whole EU sunk their teeth in Greece or Cyprus. Now the corruption is at a much higher level. It's like, you know, I want to open up, I want to buy this property so I can open up, I don't know, so I can build a shopping mall. Say, I don't know, I'm just giving some high level, big business stuff, right? Well, then, you know, you got to pay everybody. You got to pay the EU officials, you got to pay the Greek government officials, and, you know, we're talking tens of thousands, if not millions, in kickbacks. I'm saying it's hit a very high level, where before it was like a very low level. It was just kind of every day, but it was, you know, 5 euros here, 10 euros there. Now it's like super high levels. Anyway, what's my point? I've been living with corruption for a long time now, and I'm used to it. It's just part of the game. And the EU makes no difference whether the only thing the EU does is it removes the corruption from an everyday level to a very high elite level. So it benefits the elites, and they love it. You know, more money for them. Ukraine, man, Ukraine is like, it makes Greece look, you know, what can I say, saintly. Greece is saintly compared to the corruption that you witness in Ukraine. So the fact that these weapons are hitting the black market, and you have generals, NATO generals, Collective West generals, Polish generals, where the weapons are entering the country, Ukraine generals and military officials, they're all making freaking bank. They are making so much money from these weapons, and I'm sure all these weapons are making their way back to the swamp. There's no doubt about it. This is awesome business for everybody involved. And 1 billion, Biden signs it off. He signs off 1 billion military aid. It's like all of these people that are involved in the black market saying, yeah, you know, here's another 700 million payday for us. Thank you, Bidenopolis. That's exactly what's happening. That is exactly what is happening. This is no surprise, but it's trickle truth. And CNN publishes these stories, and CBS are now publishing stories like this to let the citizens of the collective West know that things are crashing. There's corruption. Yes, your average citizen in the US or the UK or in Sweden that has faithfully believed our reports that Russia is losing, Ukraine is winning, Zelensky is king, and Ukraine is going to be this democratic, human rights-oriented Western utopia. This vision that we've been selling you for 4 months, well, it's kind of not like that, you know. Swedish troops are now training Ukraine troops. You know, you got to fight to the last Ukrainian, right? That's according to Lindsey Graham. That's a quote from Lindsey Graham. So now we're getting involved on in the training business. More money. You know, to train people, you got to get those EU funds there. But a lot of corruption, black market, the Russians blowing up weapons. Ukrainians are fleeing to Kherson, to the Russian side of Kherson. It's all created. Amnesty International, their report. All of this is coming out now. This trickle truth is coming out to paint the picture that things are not as we reported over the past 4 months. And so people are going to be reading this article from CBS, and they're going to be saying, damn, that's a lot of wasted money and a lot of wasted weapons. maybe things are not going so well. It's just all about acclimating and assimilating the population for a narrative that is not as rosy as what was presented over the past 4 months. By the way, Amnesty International, they apologized, not for the story. They still stick to the facts behind the story. They're just apologizing that this is kind of causing some feelings to be hurt in the collective West. They sent an email to Reuters, Amnesty International, and they said they deeply regret the distress and anger that our press release on the Ukraine military's fighting tactics has caused. But they stand by their story. They fully stand by their findings, which is that the Ukraine military is using civilians as human shields. So Amnesty International, I'm sure from a lot of pressure from the neocons who want to keep this thing going, I'm sure Amnesty was kind of forced to issue an apology, but not a retraction. It's an apology, which once again to me signals the fact that they couldn't get Amnesty. I was going to say Amazon. That they couldn't get Amnesty International to fully retract its findings and say, you know what, they. All right. So that's the dude that goes around, drives around neighborhoods and tells everybody, I can come up and pick up any kind of garbage or trash or broken washing machines. I'll come and pick them up. He just drives around Athens, drives around these neighborhoods all day with his bullhorn making the announcements. But the fact that they couldn't get Amnesty International to fully retract the story, that shows that they're committed to throwing Zelensky under the bus. All of this stuff that we're seeing are all the first indications that the collapse is coming, and the collective West media, they're preparing the public for that collapse. And now this is important because we're seeing the same thing in my clown world as far as preparing people, preparing the population. We're seeing the same things in regards to my clown world, which I will get to very, very soon. I just want to report a couple of more things. That is that we have a ceasefire with regards to Israel and Gaza and what was happening in Gaza. We do have a ceasefire. The Israeli Prime Minister has announced that the mission has been accomplished, and they're going to wind down the Israeli offensive on Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid told municipal leaders that the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, military operation in Gaza has achieved its objectives and would be wound down. Local media reported as Lapid spoke, Egyptian brokered ceasefire talks between Israel and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad continued. So it looks like that the terrible fighting and the flare-up in Gaza has now stopped. We'll see if this ceasefire holds, but according to the Israeli Prime Minister, the operation was successful, according to his statements. And now let's get to he's saying, old washing machines, whatever you got, we'll come and take it. We'll come and grab it. And now keep in mind, they don't say if they're going to grab it for free. And a lot of people think they're going to come up to their apartment or their flat and they're going to grab the old washing machine for free. So they don't have to drag it out of their apartment and deal with all of that. Nuh-uh. They come up to your apartment and then they charge you like 20 or 40 euros to take it off your hands. So it's not for free. Let's see here. Before we get to the clown world, let's talk about Blinken in Africa. And I think I'll wrap it up with a clown world. I'll definitely wrap it up with a clown world. But, oh, by the way, just so we drive home the point that we have a collapse coming in Ukraine and for Zelensky, here's what he said in his evening address last night. He said, quote, "The situation in Donbass remains very difficult. Our army is doing everything possible to stop the Russian terror and inflict the greatest possible losses on the occupiers. Avdiivka, Pisky, Marinka, Bakhmutsky, and other hot areas in the Donetsk region take the main efforts and unfortunately many lives. It is also difficult in the Kharkov region in the south of our country where the occupiers are trying to concentrate their forces. So basically, according to this statement from Zelensky, it is bad everywhere. It is bad in Kharkov, in the northeast. It is bad in Donbass. It is bad in this fortified stronghold of Avdiivka, which was the stronghold that was shelling Donetsk. It's bad there. It's bad in Bakhmut. It's bad in Pesky. It's going to be bad in Kramatorsk. It's going to be bad in Slavyansk. It's going to be bad in Zaporozhye, in Kryvyi Rog, in these areas. It's going to be bad everywhere, and it is bad everywhere. That's pretty much what Zelensky is saying in this statement. And he's not talking about winning anymore. He's not talking about marching on Moscow. All of that is gone. He's just saying we're trying to inflict the greatest possible losses on the occupiers. And we are getting credible reports from the Ukraine side that they're now moving forces from the areas around Kiev that were still in Kiev. They're moving those forces now towards the Donbass. They're moving, they're actually getting soldiers who were wounded and are not fully recovered. They're now sending them towards the front line as well. They're to shore up the defenses in Donbass. They're trying to deal with a possible Russian offensive in Kherson. I don't know how it's going to play out over the next few weeks, but all the signs are pointing to a really desperate situation for the Zelensky regime on all fronts. Blinken, Africa. Blinken is in South Africa. He's also going to go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he's also going to go to Rwanda. Now, Congo and Rwanda, according to the State Department, Blinken wants to go there because they have formidable militaries, and he believes that their militaries could be useful to counter a Russian presence in Africa. Specifically, he mentioned the Wagner Group operating in Africa, and he is in South Africa, obviously, to try and move South Africa away from BRICS, to start sanctioning Russia, and to get them on side with the collective West. And he is going to be lobbying very, very hard to move South Africa over. The State Department, they are not shy about the trip. They're not hiding the reasons for Blinken going to Africa and to be in South Africa. It is 100% aimed at countering Russia's presence in Russia's support and presence in South Africa, and moving these countries away from their support of Russia. And you want to know what freaked out Blinken and what freaked out the collective West? Russia's meeting with Erdogan, moving towards the ruble. That really freaked them out. There was a Financial Times article stating as much. And the trip that Lavrov had recently, where leaders all around the world, wherever he went, wherever Lavrov went, everyone was lining up to shake Lavrov's hand and get a photo with Lavrov. Why? Why are they so excited to deal with Lavrov? Besides the fact that he's a pretty cool guy and a professional diplomat and he's badass, they want to side with the winner. And they all see who is winning and who's going to win. That's why everyone wants to be part of the winning team. Now, I don't see anybody lining up to shake Blinken's hand. I don't see anybody wanting to take photos with Blinken. And people in South Africa, let me know, what is the local media saying? Is there a lot of hype in and around Blinken? Are people excited? Are there indications that that South Africa might actually go along with the United States and the collective West and perhaps sanction Russia? Keep in mind that during the UN vote, way in the beginning, to condemn Russia, South Africa resisted. South Africa was one of the countries that resisted. So the statements coming out of the State Department are crystal clear. Blinken has carefully selected the 3 countries he will visit: South Africa, Congo, Rwanda. And even though the latter 2, Congo and Rwanda, are not considered models of democracy, and the U.S. wants to make sure these countries are on their side and they have military capacity, which they can use to counter Moscow's influence. Military capacity that they can use to counter Moscow's influence. Quite a statement there. Quite a statement. From the State Department, this is not just a shaking hands with different officials trip, but rather a policy-oriented one. The South Africa visit and the Africa trip as a whole would be a major success for Blinken if he managed to get a statement from Ramaphosa condemning the Russian invasion of Ukraine and to ensure that South Africa does not migrate to the Russian camp, according to State Department official Yates. That's the whole purpose of this trip. That's what this is all about. To get South Africa on side. Let me see. The U.S. Blinken. Let me get some other statements. Blinken will be in South Africa from August 7th to 9th when he will launch the State Department. When he will launch what the State Department calls the U.S. Strategy for Sub-Saharan Africa, which reinforces the U.S. view that African countries are geostrategic players and critical partners on the most pressing issues of our day, from promoting an open and stable international system to tackling the effects of climate change, food security, and global pandemics, to reshaping our technological and economic futures. Okay, he's giving out the standard human rights, democracy, climate change. Now you have to throw climate change in there all the time as well. It's all about climate change, human rights, democracy, climate change, all of these things. But the real reason he's going there, and the State Department has admitted it, is that they're freaked out that Russia and China, no doubt about it, that Russia and China are gaining a very significant foothold in Africa. I would say probably more than a foothold. They have a very strong presence in Africa, and they're very well liked in many African nations. So send over Blinken, the master diplomat, to sway over the people of South Africa to the U.S. side. If anyone can do it, Blinken can. I'm joking. Blinken can't do it. They're going to come with money in their hands, and they're going to look to bribe as many officials as they can, and they're going to put as many threats as they can as well to Ramaphosa and to his government, and they're going to use this carrot and stick, money and threats, and that's how they're going to try to move Africa over. Plain and simple. That is the technique they're going to use. Now, what else? Oh, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Bobbitt? What state is she from? Marjorie Taylor Greene is from Georgia. I believe she's from Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, they came out with a statement, and they said that after reading the CBS article about the 70% of weapons being lost, they came out with a statement, and they said that the whole Ukraine aid thing, and I quote, is a scam. It's a complete scam. That's what they said in a statement and various tweets. Yeah. So now Lauren Bobbitt, Colorado. She's from Colorado, the great state of Colorado. Yes. Denver, Colorado, beautiful city. What did she say here? How many people were called Russian bots for saying this exact same thing since March? Now when CBS says it's perfectly fine. Whatever the case, glad the facts are out. The majority of the Ukraine aid is a scam. Yeah, it's crumbling. It's crumbling. The whole thing's crumbling. It is a scam. Once again, anyone that has been to Ukraine or knows anything about Ukraine, the corruption is off the charts. It always has been, and the whole push towards the West made it even worse because it moved the corruption to very, very high levels. We're talking a lot of money. So let's get to Clown World here. And this Clown World's going to kind of be a lot of different stories, a lot of different headlines, but I think they all point to the same thing. And we've got Liz Truss, who is saying that, Prime Minister to be Liz Truss, who is saying that the UK is going to be in for a very, very tough winter. Which way should we go? Let's go up. Let's go up here. She is saying that it's going to be a very, very tough winter for the UK. Like really, really tough. That's her words, not mine. We have news that there are many people in Britain who are saying now that they're not going to pay their power bills. There's like an online petition. 75,000 people, I believe, have signed up to protest paying the outrageous energy costs and bills that are coming their way in October. Of course, the UK government is saying, don't do this. All this is going to do is it's going to drive up prices even more. And this is not the way you go about this, not the way that you protest, even though BP has posted record earnings. So you have this news coming out. You have news that France is going to have a milk shortage. They're going to have a milk shortage, and it's due. This one is due because of climate change, not because of sanctions. So they're warning about milk shortages. You have Gordon Brown, who was the one-time UK Prime Minister. He is warning of a Dickens-style poverty. That is what he is warning. And he is saying that things are just terrible all throughout the UK. People in Britain are facing a winter of dire poverty amid skyrocketing costs, is according to former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown. Those are his statements. He is saying that, according to the Labour politician, the continued increases in fuel prices places 35 million people in 13 million households, an unprecedented 49.6% of the population of the United Kingdom, in risk of fuel poverty in October. Calling the situation a financial time bomb, Brown added that there is nothing moral about indifferent leaders condemning millions of vulnerable and blameless children and pensioners to a winter of dire poverty. And we have the UK. What are they saying? They are urging citizens to reduce their showering time by at least 60 seconds to avoid water shortages. This is according to the Sunday Times, and they are citing sources with the water supply companies, and this is due to climate change. This is not due to sanctions. This is due to climate change as well. According to a report, industry representatives said that while the measure may be unpopular, the country faces a simple choice: either spend £1 billion on new infrastructure or ask people to spend one less minute in the shower. Experts say that if the weather does not change, the country may be forced to introduce more water-saving measures, including restrictions and water rationing. Analysts believe that UK residents are to blame for the rapidly decreasing water supply. Part of our current issue with low water levels leading to measures like hosepipe bans is that we still think of this as a wet country, treating water as an infinite resource, according to Christine Colvin from the Rivers Trust said in a statement as cited by Bloomberg. According to Colvin, the UK uses more water per capita than any other country in Europe. So we have the UK saying that they need to decrease their water usage. I've heard reports from Ireland saying that they're urging citizens to not drive around as much in order to preserve petrol and stuff like this. And they're actually floating around types of restrictions in how people travel around Ireland. You're getting reports like this. Now, why am I saying this? What's the point of this clown world? Much of this is due to the sanctions, right? So a lot of this is the own boomerang effect of the sanctions. And a lot of this, they're saying, is due to climate change. Now, I talked about how the media is trying to acclimate the citizens that have believed the narrative over the past 4 months that Ukraine is winning. They're trying now to get them to come to the fact that to come to the realization, slowly, that Ukraine is going to collapse and it's going to lose big time. So they're just, they're slow boiling the frog. You know what I mean? Getting them used to it with stories like 30% of the weapons actually make it to the front line, and Amnesty International says, Ukraine is using people as human shields, and all of these stories. So it's just kind of trickle truthing, boiling that frog so that everyone is not going to be so shocked when the collapse comes. You're seeing the same thing here. You're seeing the same thing. Now, the sanctions was a man-made, a leadership decision that all of the dummy leaders in the collective West took in order to destroy Russia. They thought we can destroy Russia and get regime change if we put these sanctions, and they never once thought that it might boomerang back and hit them. Now it's boomerang back and it's hit them, and they don't know what to do. So they're getting the media to kind of run interference. They don't really say sanctions. They just kind of say, you know, because of the war in Ukraine. They don't want to say sanctions. They say because of the war in Ukraine, you're going to have to use less heat. You're going to have to drive less because of fuel costs and all of these things. And now they're running stories because of climate change. You're not going to have milk. You're going to have to shower less. And that's just the way things are. And the disasters of climate, of war, maybe they'll throw in disease in a month or two, who knows? But all of these disasters, I think, and the pushing of the mainstream media of these disasters and telling people, use less water, use less heat, don't buy milk, don't drive around as much. It's all about acclimating people to this whole great reset thinking, you know? That's what it's all about. That's what I want to say. I did this whole turn and I rambled on for about 10 minutes, and people in the comments are going to be upset with me. Why do you ramble on? I can't help it. This is not scripted. I don't know what I'm saying sometimes. I'm just kind of, you know, this is a conversation. I mean, I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying, but it's a conversation. And sometimes I take a little bit more time to get to my point. That's just the way I am as a person, unfortunately. That's my point with this clown world. All of these clownish stories and all of the damage that our leaders have done. And now they're pushing the fact that we're going to have to cut back on our quality of living and things that we've taken for granted, like running water and buying milk at the supermarket, that we're going to have to cut back on these things because of climate change, coupled with the war in Ukraine, which is really code for sanctions that they instituted. Throw in some more disasters that I'm sure they're cooking up, and the media is going to help push along, and you're getting the boiling of the frog with all of us having to get used to a very different type of life, right? Own nothing, be happy type of living. That's what they're doing here. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong. But that is my opinion. I see all these stories now just flooding the interwebs, and I'm saying, okay, here we are. The media is prepping us. They are prepping us. Now, I don't know if milk is in short supply, perhaps. I don't know if water is in short supply, perhaps. I don't know if this is a disaster, and I don't know if this can be fixed easily. But I do know that the fear-mongering from the collective West media, there's a point to it. There's a point to it. Those are my thoughts. That's my clown world. Kind of a clown world, kind of a discussion of a lot of news topics. I'm going to end it there because I'm at the exit. This is where I entered. This is where I will leave. The Duran.locals.com, Alexander's channel, the Duran's channel, Rumble, BitChute, ODYSEE, and Telegram. Look for us there. And Duran Shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.